Hello, and welcome to our video about holistic management. I'm Tanner Coolidge.
And I'm Cameron Cauldron.
I'm Corey Carlson.
And today we're going to go into the field over here and apply what we have learned in holistic management.
There are 4 ecosystem processes that are crucial to holistic management. The first is community dynamics. The second is the water cycle. The third is the mineral cycle. And finally, energy flow. The first of these processes, which is community dynamics, is assessing succession. The complexity of the land here is a key indicator of the stability, resilience, productivity, and health of this area.
Here we can see some of the community dynamics in this field. We can see that there's a dominant type of grass out here, but we also see that there's some other grasses as well. We see there's good ground cover, and that's good to see. We see that there's bugs, different types of life out here. We see some flying around. The cows are moving around. They're doing a good job. They're producing manure, and they have a lot of microbes in their stomach, and then when they produce manure in their cow pies, that will go to feed the organisms in the soil. And we were looking at their cow pies. We see that there are some that are pumpkin pie, which are good, and then we also see some that tend to be more on the runny side, which could have to do with being introduced to a newer field. This field looks like it is in the beginning stages of being grazed. We don't see any woody species in this field right now. It's mainly just grassland, so it's more on the earlier side of succession as well, which is good if you're trying to graze cattle.
Okay, so the next ecosystem process we have is the water cycle. So the water cycle starts off with precipitation, or in some cases irrigation, and it depends on how much ground cover and how rough it is for how well it infiltrates into the ground. So here we can run a simulation. Come forward. We run a simulation of pouring water onto the ground and seeing how well it infiltrates. So here we're going to pour some water and some ice, and we're going to see that it soaks into the ground, so we have good infiltration. And so the next process, or the next step in that process, is evapotranspiration. The water will then recycle back into the atmosphere and start all over again.
The next ecosystem process is the mineral cycle. The mineral cycle is crucial for both plants and animals. So here we can see a great example of the mineral cycle at work. We've got different types of plants with different root systems. Obviously your perennial plants are going to have a longer root system that's deeper, whereas your annual plants are going to have just that barely scratching the surface, easy to pull out, and not necessarily great for cycling those nutrients that are deeper in the soil. So here, this cow patty is decomposing into the grass, which is releasing some of the nutrients from the cow patty, crucial nutrients like nitrogen, which is hard to come by naturally for plants and animals. The final ecosystem process at work here is energy flow, where the sun's energy is converted into energy that's usable by plants and animals through the process of photosynthesis. These grasses here are photosynthesizing and then will be eaten by the cows, who will in turn be eaten by humans, cycling nutrients over and over.
Now we're going to dive into the decision testing. So decision testing is a big part of holistic management. Now you can use the decision testing for anything related to holistic management, or anything personal, or anything in life you need to make a decision. And you can use it for something big, something small, doesn't matter. First thing you want to talk about is the cause and effect. You want to compare everything. So is it a problem? Or is it a symptom of the problem? What are the symptoms? You want to ask yourself that. Then you want to look at the weak links of the different options. So you want to look at the social weak link. Does it affect relationships in your life? Then you want to look at the biological weak link. Does it affect any species? And then you want to look at the financial weak link, which is the resource conversion to product conversion. Research conversion to product conversion into market. So you can have the sun feeds the grass, grass feeds the cow, and the cow goes to the market and produces money. The next thing you're going to be doing is comparing your options. You're going to see what is the biggest bang for your buck. And then you want to do a GPA, or gross profit analysis. So you want to compare the different enterprises and see if they cover the overhead cost. Now, sometimes in the decision testing, you'll have blanks, and that's okay. Next, you want to talk about the input analysis. So you want to talk about the sources and the uses, and you want to see, you want to ask yourself if you're okay with where the source or how you're getting this, and does it align with your holistic goal? And then you want to do a vision analysis. So a vision analysis is just comparing, or does it apply to your future resource base, or is it sustainable? And last is a gut check. Is a right away feeling. Does it feel right? You know, how do you feel about it personally? And which is a very, very important and decision-making factor. Because are you going to feel okay with whatever decision you make?
Holistic management is very important for the future of our world. Today, we have systems that are unbalanced and are not being managed correctly. This is helping lead to global warming. If we can properly manage our environmental and our grasslands better, then we will be able to help restore the mineral cycle, the water cycle, and the energy cycle, and the different cycles. So really, it's not just important, holistic management isn't just important for if you raise cattle, or you raise sheep, or you're grazing and managing land. It affects all of us. And it doesn't just have to affect the way that, you manage livestock. There's also something called a holistic context. A holistic context is a set of values that you hold, that you write down, and you keep track of. And you can use this context to make future decisions in your life. It's how you want your life to be lived. You can see behind me we have some cows, and they're hanging out in the shade right now, but they were grazing this field. Something you have to think about when managing grazing is it's not a complicated system, it's a complex system. Complex systems, unfortunately, they're a lot harder to manage because you can never completely know what is being done correctly because there's so many parts of it that we just can't control. A complicated system is more like a machine, something that you can control. A big part in grazing management, though, is like these electric fences. You can see that one over there. So the electric fences you can use them to change up how your pastures are, change the size, and then that will allow you to graze the area the best you can, because you can change them every year depending on how the grass grows, or every few years. It's not a permanent system, which can have issues because the grass doesn't always grow the same each year.
It's important to consider the water troughs in any given paddock. As you can see right here, the grazing patterns are extremely different in the radius around the water trough. As you can see, about 10 feet away from the water troughs, the grass is much higher, but here it's grazed almost right down to the soil. Additionally, we've got a lot of cow patties here, which is reducing the overall animal impact on the entire paddock and concentrating the cycle of nutrients, possibly even too much, around the water troughs. Additionally, these water troughs don't necessarily provide the resource to all walks of life, to contribute to all sorts of animal impacts. Because they're high enough for the cows to drink out of, they're not necessarily high enough or lack ramps or other necessary attachments to provide water to birds, ground squirrels, other types of animals, frogs that might want to drink as well.
And there's also a big part of it is having a rotational grazing, which is where you don't keep the cows too long in one area. You keep them in one area, they'll keep chewing and chewing until you have a bunch of bare soil. You don't want that. You want to be able them to take a bite of grass and all over the field, and then once they've taken a bite everywhere in the field, you move them to the next area. This also allows them to not have any buildup of worms, because the worms, you can move the cows before the worms come. So you have to spend as much on dewormer. And this system helps the grass. It encourages more perennial growth. and it helps the cows as well. It's a more natural and overall better system for the environment.